What's going on there, citizens of the Reject Nation? Greg here today. Joined with me, of course, my co-host John Humphrey. John Humphrey, how are you? How was your Christmas? Did you have a good Christmas?
It was mostly a pretty good Christmas.
Mostly a pretty good Christmas.
Mostly a pretty good Christmas.
I dressed up and I stole presents from John's household.
Yeah. And then when I realized, like a couple hours in that this was a Grinch role play, then I had a lot more fun with the...
You're not getting the presents back.
There's still some trauma, and that's part of it.
Here when he showed up at my place.
And then he burned them all in front of me.
Yeah. You know who's burning stuff? James Gunn. He's burning the DC Universe.
Every bridge.
Boycott WBD.
Every effigy.
Still in recovery mode, guys.
It's okay.
You might hear it in my voice a little bit. Zachary Levi and James Gunn versus DC fans. That's what I'm going to say for this video. I'm going to set the stage for that.
Stoke that drama fire.
Yeah. Oh my God. Zach Levi, what are you doing? I'm gonna twist your words today, Zach Levi. I'm gonna twist all your words. Leave a like if you hate Zachary Levi, or also leave a like if you agree with Zachary. There's always a reason to leave a like.
Always.
Ladies and gentlemen, Zachary Levi, I think, had good intentions, but kind of stirred more flames.
That's the tune of this entire conversation. Let's hear it.
All right, so this is a few days old, but it is one of those things that has weirdly been on my mind. A lot of times, like news stories, they might just come and go in my brain. I don't really reflect on them. This is something that hasn't left my noggin, so I know while we're like the last people in the world to talk about this, I feel like this kind of has some perhaps indicators for what the future of the DC universe might ultimately unfold to look like. It's a very fascinating discussion to be had because I feel like the divide is more present than ever with DC fans, and it might be one of the best things for them at this current moment before all these announcements start coming in, and I'll go into that a little bit later as to why. Quickly, this paraphrase of what Zach Levi essentially talked about. You guys might have already heard everything he had to say. He had like a 15-minute Instagram video, and there's probably around like 2 minutes of it that's been going around where he's just sort of rambling on. His whole tone is just basically, guys, it's okay. Look, listen, you just gotta have faith in James Gunn and Peter Safran. Like, they know what they're doing.
Don't worry,
Other people
guys,
didn't really
fine.
Like.
Just calm
we could
down.
get as much
Don't
Marvel
jump into
audience.
conclusions.
There's more audience to get, and some people weren't happy with previous what others were. But if you weren't, there's more to gain. That's honestly like this is like 2 minutes of quotes, but that's the main takeaway. That all you really need to have from it is that. And I really believe he has good intentions, and for the most part, I actually agree with what he's saying here. A lot of people are taking things and then are just blatantly wrong, and then running them as if they're confirmed reports and stuff, and how he's had things, taken out of context that he said at conventions, like how he's a Snyder Cut denier. Snyder Cut deniers.
I
the
knew
worst
it.
of
Can't
them
trust
all.
anything a Snyder Cut denier.
Can't trust any Snyder Cut deniers.
Nah, burn him.
In my complete outside point of view as a man who has never met, I'm saying the word seems like a guy who's never really quite been on board for the Snyderverse.
Nope.
It never struck me as the kind of guy who is. I could be wrong. I don't know the guy. It just seems that way.
Let's get that gritty, brooding Shazam.
But he does, talk about how he thinks that the next Shazam is going to be a good movie, but he did specify that he has not had any conversations about getting the boot from being Shazam, which is interesting because a lot of other actors have so far. Yeah. And guess what camp they're all part of? They're all part of the Snyderverse camp.
So someone's going around behind the scenes at DC making people sign an oath of loyalty to either James Gunn or Zack Snyder. And if you sign the Snyder, you're out.
And, as people who've talked about said Ezra Miller here on the channel before, I am generally part of that camp. It's kind of weird how, Gal Gadot's gone. Black Adam, he's gone. Maybe if he didn't have that scene with Superman at the end, he'd still be around, but he's gone. Ben Affleck, obviously out. Aquaman's looking to be gone too. It seems like they really are adamant on the main divide seems to be happening with the Snyderverse. So we kind of just need to get to the point where we rip the Band-Aid off. We have the official breakup with the Snyderverse. We make that crystal cut clear, and then we can move on to something new. That's what I was implying earlier by how the divide now, why it makes sense why some of this stuff is coming out, why they're even allowing some of this to come out right now before new announcements come in, because that allows us to deal with the breakup at the moment, before we move on to a new relationship with the DC universe. As far as Ezra Miller is concerned, though, I get the impression that there's already decisions made, but they're really keeping that hush-hush.
They're all going to come out after the release of The Flash.
Yes. I think they're waiting till after that, but I have a strong feeling most of that has already been dealt with, and they have a decision of what they want to do moving forward, and that's why we're just not hearing jack about it, because the movie has to come out.
They're still gonna make that money. The studio themselves can't disavow their star before recouping the one thing they're holding on to.
The same way how I think Aquaman, they might hold off on announcing Jason Momoa is no longer going to be Aquaman until after The Lost Kingdom comes out. If you make that a confirmation, that will lead more people to be like, well, there's literally no point in watching this in the theaters then.
Yeah, there's no billion for this movie. It is fascinating, too, because, like Zachary Levi at the moment seems to be in one of the safer positions, and the tone of his movie is different. But I feel like if you're going to get to this point where you're clearing house, you should clear the house. You shouldn't have one...
the most fair thing to do.
Dangling random. As much as I would be happy to see Shazam continue and Zachary Levi keep on playing the role, it does seem like an odd remainder to be like, nah, we're keeping this one, no matter all of them.
Well, I wonder if he's being completely honest, though. He goes on to give them, vehement amounts of praise. He goes on to even praise Walter Hamada. He praises Peter Safran, who is the producer of the Shazam films before they became the CEOs of the DC universe, right? Part of me wonders, like, I haven't had a conversation yet. Time to kiss some major ass.
I'm going to do this just on my own volition.
Seriously, you can't help but wonder, are they doing that? I mean, it didn't really bode well for Henry Cavill when he said he was looking forward to having conversations with James Gunn, but he went on a rant. He's clearly vexed by some of the things that he has been seeing and receiving his way, for all this. And it makes me wonder, with Peter Safran and kind of the DC films he produces and the fact that they haven't had any conversations with him, if in fact that they would want Shazam, which is the most akin to an MCU movie out of them all, to have the DC universe have its heart and tone more reflect that of the Shazam movie.
That could work. I just feel like that would still upset a lot of people if that was like the first note. Like you would have to introduce that idea, I feel like, later after already reintroducing some new DC stuff just to let us know what the flavor of that is going to be, because I feel like the main concern is what's Batman's flavor going to be like? What's Superman's flavor going to be like? Are those things going to feel like the MCU? Because I don't think everybody wants that. And it does make me very curious about who is timing all this and why, because I think your point is really apt that he could just be damage controlling for himself and just trying to take advantage of the radio silence to put his piece out there. But at the same time, there are probably so many people running around with their hair on fire at Warner's too, being like, we need to calm the people.
Yeah.
We need to keep the wrath at bay. Some of that tone you were referencing earlier, that's sort of like, hey, come on, guys, it's fine. Come on. Some of that speaks to me of, I think he just wants to keep his job. I would be happy to see Shazam keep going, but I feel like it would almost tick people off more if that became the thing where they're like, no, this is the DCEU movie, the DCU moving forward, and this is our flagship character or something like that.
And it's not our fault if people, it's much easier to ask people to not. It's like, don't think about the elephant. Don't think about it.
Of course you are. You're going
to. When stuff is coming out and certain things are being confirmed and reported, then you're like, well, but what does that mean for this? What does that mean for that? What does that mean for this? What does that mean? Like, our minds are going to trail, and we are going to have this discussion. So you can't ask us not to theorize about certain things,
Every part that moves affects all the other parts and is a whole new conversation starter.
I get asking for, don't declare that this is indeed the truth if we don't know for sure, but if I think there's no real harm in theorizing about what might be going on. To me, it sounds like Zach Levi really wants to make sure he's got a job.
He does.
I like him, though. I listened to like a bunch of interviews with the guy. I think he's a great personality. And at the end of the day, I don't disagree with a lot of what he's saying. Because, the DC's constantly seems like it's been in a divide for such a long time, even for the projects I've loved. I know, like, there's another camp that really doesn't like these. So, I get it. But, guys, leave your thoughts down below. Do you agree with Zach Levi or not? What do you think his statements will ultimately mean? Leave your thoughts down below. Subscribe, leave a like, click that bell. Last but not least, let's end this with a
Brian.
John Shaw, Brian Perry.
Brian Perry. Shazam! I just feel so filled with joy, like a bolt of lightning from the sky when I read your name. It's spelled interestingly, but it's also like snappy. It sounds like a person you'd want to sing you a song, maybe, or somebody that you would listen to like sage, wise advice from.
Yeah, maybe.
Brian Perry, I hope you are having a nice holiday season, whichever holiday you celebrate. I don't want to make any assumptions here.
Bad day.
You had a bad day today. We're here to make it better, Brian.
It's not gonna get better.
Life, it doesn't always give you what you want, Brian. But the important thing is that you're still showing up every day. and you're still showing up at this Patreon page for these haphazard. Yeah, keep on sleeping and just never waking up to unpledge yourself from the Patreon. And then just wake up in 20, 30 odd years. You've got this timeless huge beard, and you don't even know where you are. And that Patreon keeps on growing. From dehydration thanks to you. Crawl to the nearest river if you can. If your body doesn't give out in tough. Yeah, it's real tough out there in these sleeping for 30 years streets. So
thanks for being part of our Patreon.
Thanks, Brian Perry.